Statements like all is flux, nothing stays still sound less like philosophy and more like occult science, right? It's that principle of vibration vibe again. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. We could say that's just a vibe and write it off as wishful thinking, the stuff of fanciful new age gurus and yada yada yada. But even objects that appear stationary are vibrating, oscillating, resonating at various frequencies. Resonance is motion. It's oscillation between two poles. I mean, electrostatic forces literally hold the world together. But I digress. Let's consider something we can actually grasp. Right here and right now, our home is rotating at about 1,000 miles per hour while orbiting the sun at an unfathomable 67,000 miles an hour. All that results from what science calls an attractive force. One that causes apples to fall on the heads of one of my favorite alchemists of all time. So let's get into the mystery of energy and discuss just how little we actually know. Rock with me as we take that journey within. What up, though? It's your host, Justin, welcoming you back to the Mystical Mind State. Today, we're taking a look at vibrations and wrestling with our senses of perception and how what's actually going on might actually be a little bit different. Now, these are natural steps towards cosmic union that every seeker starts taking. We get really question-filled in our journeys. Two statements I want the two dominant camps to consider on this topic. If you're more inclined to the wishful thinkers who use pseudoscience as the basis for their spiritual systems, spend some time listening to physicists who obliterate these subjects and test your beliefs a little bit. Blind faith comes in many forms, right? Including spiritualism. To the other guys, I'd like you to consider the mystics of the ancient mystery religions and ask yourself, how did Heraclitus know we're in a constant state of flux without the instruments to test his theories? How did any of the great thinkers of antiquity, from Pythagoras to Lao Tzu, land on quantifiable truths through contemplation and meditation alone? See, our species needs both the skeptic and the believer, in my humble opinion. So, I'd love to start bridging the gap between these polarized groups and get the thread moving through the minds of human beings in general. Like, we really need to start talking about this and come to some level of even ground to discuss it. Because just because guys like Heraclitus say things like the eyes and the ears are bad witnesses to men, and that may be the realest thing for me, but it doesn't mean that I don't have a healthy respect for people like Stephen Hawking, who said, not only does God play dice, but sometimes he throws them when they can't be seen. See, intuition takes time to develop, and so much of what we experience is subjective. Before we can even move into the deep levels of consciousness, we have to start with things our senses can actually grasp. Like, y'all remember when we went through that whole fad where auras were everywhere and all of these super clairvoyant types started popping up with ways to read auras and all that? But where were the practical means to extend our perceptions, to embrace auras? Like, who sat down and told us the next time you get a chance, take note of illumination that glows around a street lamp on a foggy night? Anyone with two eyes can physically see the glow. Mystics allude to animals, plants, and humans having auras that glow in almost exactly that same sense. Now, obviously, these are two very different phenomenons, but who's to say that the mystics are wrong? There may be an extrasensory perception that allows that level of seeing. Magnets offer us quantifiable examples of fields we can't physically see that absolutely affect the world we live in. So do we actually have to know what an energy field is to tune into its existence? Probably not. Consider Taoist systems that break down three specific energy fields, one physical, another linked to chi or vitality, and a third, astral body, all of which are just oscillating degrees of said chi, right? A few thousand years later, and scientists are now aware of the Earth's own electromagnetic spectrum called Schumann resonances. These resonances are generated and excited by lightning discharges in the cavity formed by the Earth's surface in the ionosphere, right? Scientists have documented various frequencies in association with these energy fields. 3 even. Kind of like the 3 pure ones in Taoism. And this is great. But meditators have their own way of tuning into the rhythms around us, right? For instance, if you sit down with your back against a tree you have an affinity for, As you relax against a tree and tune into the energy flowing through it, you can just visualize the branches reaching up, and as you inhale, feel the sun energy, the solar energy pouring through its branches and into the trunk. Hold that consideration before exhaling and feel how deep the roots of the tree go as it reaches for water. You see what's happening here? It's a transference of energy from one state to another. There are at least 2 pagans that are hearing this and going, yeah, bro, that's my exact path. Word. See, because the more we relax into observing the interplay of life and the more we awaken to the flowing nature of existence, the more we understand. We slowly begin to internalize how all of these transformations are taking place around us. Energy becomes a meditative tool that deepens our connection to our worlds instead of some abstract mystical idea. All life, from bacteria to humans to the multiverse itself, holds energy because it needs energy. From sound energy making this communication possible to the thoughts these talks generate duplicating upwards through their neural networks, we're still talking about energy transference. Vibrations in my throat are going through digital signals that make these little bones vibrate in your ear where biochemically produced energies form thoughts. It's not the fancy imagination of some new age guru named Starchild or whatever, it's real life. A mystical mind state would simply mean we've tuned into the dance of life happening around us. Not on clairvoyant and psychic, right? Now, if you want to feel like a space cadet, just throw in a little bit of Isaac Newton and say the mind reorganizes the cosmos. It's cool, bro. Like, it's fun to do. Either way, we should be asking ourselves how our mental energies affect the physical world. If everything is interconnected by these playing fields of energy, then everything that we do actually matters. We should be more careful, more loving towards everything from plants to animals to other human beings. Just do it with a little bit more finesse. That's all it's asking. In fact, let's all just start testing this interconnectedness a bit. Like, play melodies in your head and check if anyone around you starts randomly singing them. Or think of a search topic and see if Google will prompt it in your search history without you saying it out loud. Or pay attention to the impressions you get when you're being around certain people without looking at their faces or studying their demeanors. Just pay attention to how your own thoughts and emotions shifts around people, places, and things you come into. Pick someone in a board meeting and think about them intensely without actually looking at them. Visualize their face for 25 to 30 seconds and zone out and see if they glance in your direction. Like, think of times when you felt like you were being watched and caught a stranger glaring in your direction. It's unusual, yes, but it isn't woo-woo. Moon Unit Starburst III can attempt to convince you with psychic ability because he has some system he wants to sell online, but it isn't supernatural. Respected members of the scientific community talk about how mentally interconnected we all are all the time. Think of Dan Siegel saying, the mind is not just brain activity. When we realize it's this relational process, there's this huge shift in this sense of belonging. Imagine not feeling separate from each other, but falling in love with the interactions that make up our unique experiences by simply shifting our world views. It could be quite beautiful, really. Maybe we could reach a point where the UCLA School of Medicine does a course on the principles of mentalism, and we could look at books like Siegel's Mind, A Journey to the Heart of Being Human, in a similar light to the maxims found in the Kabbalion. You know, those statements that say things like the all is mind and the universe is mental. Who knows? Maybe instead of arguing, we could try to do something truly revolutionary and learn from each other. Besides, I'm pretty sure the old school Kabbalists used to say, who was wise? He who learns from every man. You guys have been wonderful. As always, keep breathing in light and living in love. Peace. Yo, I want to take a moment to genuinely thank you for taking an interest in spiritual growth. There's no greater honor a teacher can receive than watching other people learning how to live in love. If each one can teach one, they can reach another and another. And before you know it, love becomes the mode and the entire planet is a more compassionate place. Now, we're community people, so pull up your browsers, search mysticalmindstate.com for more resources. There's hundreds of blog posts covering dozens of topics. Now, if you look at the top, there's even a tab to reach out. Feel free to email me any questions, prayer requests, special interests, whatever. I'm an approachable guy. This is really what I do. You can skip the email list to hit me on Insta or any of the meta sites. I'm also on Tumblr under the name Brother Hermes. There's over thousands of posts floating around on that one, and there's a huge community of people that I'm active with. It also has an Ask tab, so if you got something you want to know about, feel free to drop an ask and I'll get to it as quickly as I can. Like this video if we vibe together. Feel free to subscribe and jump in and follow the movement. Enter into the conversation, drop any comments or thoughts below. I'm always open to debate. This is really what I do. I love watching people grow and evolve. I love people finding the divine. You are my reason. Your spiritual growth is my why. So again, thank you for your time. Peace.